Guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today we're doing a giant winter reading wrap-up. Alright, I have been putting off doing reading wrap-ups, like general wrap-ups, and I have not done one since October. So this is going to be everything that I read from November through most of February, minus what I read for Randomathon, which was my last readathon, because I have a separate Randomathon reading wrap-up that you can go check out where I talk about everything I read for that readathon. We have about 4 months worth of books to chat about. I fixed my hair real quick. I'm torn about what to do with reading wrap-ups because I don't love editing them because they take so long when I combine them like this, and I do like a bunch of months at once, but they don't always do the best when I do them 1 month at a time. I'm not really sure if you guys even enjoy the reading wrap-ups. I love doing the ones for the readathons because they're so specific and they're for a theme. But let me know, do you prefer to do a giant wrap-up with a couple months at once, or do you prefer it when it's individually, like after each month? I'm trying to decide what the best method is because I want to talk about these books that I don't read for readathon so they don't get like lost in the shuffle, but just not sure what to do going forward. So let me know. But for now, we have a huge stack, so if you want to hear about some books that I loved and didn't love and all of the in between, then just keep watching. All right, we're going to go in order of star rating. This is not perfect order of favorite to least favorite, but we'll go in categories of 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, all that kind of stuff. I did not have any 1 stars. I haven't had a 1 star in a while because most of the time if a book is going the direction of a 1 star, I'll just DNF it, and I don't rate books that I DNF unless I get really close to the end. So we're going to move to the 2 stars. We have Snowdrowned by Jennifer D. Lyle. I talked about this one in my latest little mini unhaul video, so you can check that one out. I think a couple of these books are in that video. This one I read for Jingle Bellathon or Not So Scary-a-thon. I'm not sure where I put it. This one was pitched kind of as this like town in Maine that gets these snowstorms, and every time a snowstorm comes, somebody dies, and there's all these like myths and rumors that they're like magical or nefarious in some way, and our main character has grown up her whole life like knowing about this, and she has decided to stay in town for the most upcoming snowstorm. She meets up with Joseph, who is the son of one of the wealthy people in the town, and she gets to go and stay with his family, and she starts to uncover all these like weird secret things that are going on. This one just didn't have enough to do with the snow like I was hoping. I really wanted some like nefarious, creepy snow situations, and to me it just didn't have enough of it based on the title and the synopsis and how it was pitched. Had a little bit of culty vibes, and then it got really wild and weird at the end. It took like a weird left turn, which sometimes I love. It just didn't work for me. I didn't really care about the romance. I was a little bit bored in the middle part, so this one was like a 2.5 star. Next, we have The Gift by Frida McFadden. I read a lot of little short novellas, short stories for Jingle Bellathon. I will link the vlogs where I'm reading a lot of these books down below in the description if you guys want to see me like actually talking about them in a little bit more detail. It's a very short novella retelling of Gift of the Magi in kind of like a creepy way and like a spooky way. I don't want to say too much because it'll give it away, but our main character is trying to buy this gift for her new husband, and she works like at a diner. She meets with this old lady that is like, I can help you do that. I have a shop, and then she wants to like trade her for something. And so it was a pretty forward, straight retelling until the end. I did like that there was a twist at the end, but I didn't love what the twist was. Overall, I just didn't understand the point of it. Like, it just didn't do anything for me. It was extremely short. I think it was like an hour on audio. So this one was like, again, another 2.5. Then we have The Christmas Party. I actually don't even think I finished this one. I think I had an hour left. This was about this family that has been estranged. Something happened with one of the daughters. The daughter wound up going and like marrying this like wealthy man, creating a life for herself, and she decides that she wants to reconnect with her family and have this big Christmas party and invites all of them to like her fancy estate, which is like exactly the kind of thing that I like. However, for me, this story was so boring and it just dragged on. I didn't mind the audiobook narrator, but the actual like story itself was just so dull. I didn't really care about the ending, and I didn't even wind up finishing it. I also wish there had been a little bit more like holiday festivities, and it didn't necessarily need to be a fun read, maybe a little bit more fast-paced. I didn't even wind up finding the actual ending out because I just decided to not finish it because I was pretty much bored out of my mind. So 2 stars. Then we have Birdie's Christmas. This was like a 30-page Christmas story in like one of the Christmas collections that I had. It was very weird. It was like a man playing a trick on some of his friends. I don't even entirely remember. It has something to do with like barnyard animals, and I just, again, didn't understand the point, but it was a very old story, so 2 stars. Next, we have The Bitter End by Alexa Dawn. I was very excited for this one. This was my first read in January. This is a YA thriller set in like a ski chalet with a bunch of teens. From what I remember, the teens were like getting together for this resort like weekend. They may have even been troubled teens that were trying to like work through different things. They had like a counselor there, and then somebody dies and things kind of go haywire from there, and you're uncovering all of the drama between all of them. This one again was just kind of boring to me. The narrator was okay, but it just wasn't as quick as I was expecting or as intriguing, and this is one of those thrillers where I found all of the characters so unlikable that I just didn't care about the ending. That can happen a lot with thrillers because they want them all to be available to be a suspect for whatever crime is happening. But when I don't care about the characters at all, I don't really care about who murdered or why they did it or anything like that. So this one was like a 2.75 for me. But I do feel like the atmosphere was pretty good and other people might enjoy it more than I did. All right, moving on to the 3 stars. This one just barely made the 3-star list, and that is Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. This was my first Geneva Rose, who is a thriller writer. This is an adult standalone thriller. This again is another estranged family. We have 3 kids and they are kind of coming together after the death of their mother to figure out what to do with her house and the funeral and all that kind of stuff. And when they get together, they discover this cassette tape and they think they're gonna like watch some old family memories and kind of bond again. And when they do, the video gets cut and they wind up seeing their dad like covered in blood and weird situations happening. And then they kind of have to unsolve this mystery. I feel like this is a great one for thriller beginners for the most part. To me, I found it a little boring. Again, all the characters were unlikable, not like in an extreme way, but I didn't really care about the characters personally. I found this one extremely predictable. I try really hard not to predict things and just kind of enjoy the ride with thrillers and mysteries. But this one, it was so obvious, like who did what, and not necessarily for why, but it was kind of obvious about like who was trying to hide certain things. I was just kind of trying to get to that point. It didn't have enough of the nostalgia that I was wanting because it was kind of pitched a little bit as like an extremely nostalgic like 80s style book, and I just didn't get a ton of that. It was a very easy to follow and like decently written thriller. It just didn't do anything like overly special for me. So sitting at a 3-star. Last of the Spirits. This I've been wanting to read for a long time. This is a middle grade Christmas Carol like reimagining, retelling. I thought the premise and how this was done was really good. In the Christmas Carol, when Scrooge is visited by the ghost of Christmas, he like opens his robes and in between his legs there are the children of like want and need. It's supposed to kind of be like a metaphor and a lesson on life. And so the author took those 2 children and made a story about them, and then they also get visited by ghosts and things. This one was definitely heavy for a middle grade. Our characters are orphans and they're really struggling to survive after the death of their parents. The oldest boy is very like upset with the world and how he is being treated, which makes him also treat other people poorly and do things that are out of character for him, which also made him unfortunately kind of unlikable. I thought the premise of this and the way that it was done was really interesting, but again, it just didn't fully work for me and I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, so a 3-star. Next is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Sarah Rosh. Very sad about this one. This was pitched as the Prince of Christmas falls in love with the Prince of Halloween, which is just like everything I wanted. However, this is set in this entire fantasy world where there are all the different seasons and each one has like a representative. It had a lot to do with the politics of this world and doing certain things to boost certain holidays or to boost certain income, which was taken very seriously but in this very silly world. And so I didn't really love that part of it because it just was so silly, but they all took everything like very seriously and it had a little bit of a heavy feeling to it. The romance didn't really really come fully into play until like over halfway into the book. And even then, it somewhat took a backseat to the politics of this world. This one does have a little bit of spice in it, which I don't always love. It wasn't the main focus though, so that was okay. Like all of the stuff with the holidays, there's like a Princess of Easter and like all that kind of stuff. Our main character is kind of unlikable though, and I felt like our love interest was fairly bland. Again, just didn't fully work for me the way I was wanting it to, so a 3-star. Next we have The Christmas Countdown. This was just a new Christmas release that came out. I actually enjoyed this one quite a bit. It didn't quite reach a 4-star. I think we're sitting at like a 3.5, 3.75. I really liked the idea of this. We have our main character. I think she has just recently been broken up with. She has moved like back home to kind of hang out with her sister. Her sister is known for like these Christmas countdowns, and she creates one for her to kind of get her out of her life slump. And so she creates these different tasks that she wants her to do, but her sister has to leave and is not able to do them with her, and she winds up meeting up with this guy, and he decides to help her do these different tasks like get a Christmas tree, bake sugar cookies, stuff like that. Love those kinds of things. Really fun. I do feel like this one was a little bit slow. I did like the romance. It was cute. I thought it was pretty much what it needed to be for what it was, and I really liked the ending. So like a 3.75 for me. Next I did a buddy read, and I read The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. I was very excited for this one because this is an adult standalone novel about a woman who has these men come down from her attic. So one day she is home and she discovers this man coming from her attic. She doesn't know who he is, and he insists that he is her husband. He winds up going back into the attic, and when he comes back out, he is a different man. Every time the man goes up into the attic, a new man comes out, and she quickly learns that that is what's happening, and she starts to try to find the perfect husband. Loved this almost the whole way through. I just love worlds where they get to experience different types of lives, because every time a different man came out, her life would change, like the decorations in the house and a little bits of her body. Like one of the men, I think they exercised a lot together, so her like waist was a little bit smaller and they had more vegetables in the fridge, and then one time they have a dog and different things like that. And so it was really interesting to see like what altered in her life as she got each husband and what she was willing to put up with and what she wasn't. It was so great. The only reason this is down to like a 3.75 is because I just didn't love the ending. I wanted something a little bit more. Like I enjoyed it, I thought it was fine, but I just wanted a little bit more of like a punch or a resolution or something at the ending. So I will read more from this author though, because I just loved her writing style. The narrator for this one was really good as well. Next we have A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. I am doing a giant buddy read with some friends on Instagram and through Storygraph of the Veronica Speedwell series. This is a 9-book series. We're trying to do about one per month, and this is the first one in the series. This is set in the Victorian era, and we're following our feisty main character who hunts and studies butterflies for a living. She recently came home to bury her spinster aunt, and she is now free to resume her world travels and her pursuit of the butterflies and all of her dalliances with her different suitors across the globe. Her plans are thwarted when she winds up avoiding getting abducted and meeting up with this baron who thinks he might know what's going on and promises her a sanctuary with his friend Stoker, who is kind of like this grumpy sunshine Darcy type character. And she goes to stay with him, and then they find out the baron has been murdered, and they're both trying to unsolve this mystery and stay safe. It's got this slow burn, snarky smart female main character, and then this grumpy sunshine Darcy type love interest. I really enjoyed this. I had a good time. I didn't love it as much as I was expecting. It's giving me a little tiny bit of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairy vibes to it, but not quite as good yet. However, I think it's going to get better and better as the series goes on. So I'm reading the second and the third book here very soon, so there'll be an upcoming wrap-ups, and I'm really excited to continue the series because I think it's just going to be something that I really love. So like a 3.75. All right, next up are the 4 stars. Next we have The Holly Tree Inn by Charles Dickens, another like short novella style read. I did this one on audio. It was done by like BBC Radio. It was like a full production. It was only like a 40-minute audio. It's a very short story. Charles Dickens has a lot of these like short stories, which is really cool, and I had never read them. And this is about a man that comes to this inn, and he basically tells tells like his different stories that have to do with ghosts and different adventures along the way. I found it very charming, and it was really such a fun audiobook to listen to. Highly recommend this one if you just want something short to squeeze in, especially around the holiday season. So this was a 4-star. We have Letters to Father Christmas by J.R.R. Tolkien. These are letters that J.R.R. wrote to his children from the North Pole, from Santa, and every year he added on to the previous story, and he just compiled them into this book. The letters and the stories are awesome. There's like a magical polar bear, and there's elves and different creatures. It's fabulous. However, I did the audiobook. The narrator is amazing, but because it's told in these letters, they added in this musical interlude after every letter, and it was so annoying. It was like dun 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 dun, and it was really long. And because I was listening at a faster speed, it was even more annoying because the letters are only like 2 minutes long, and then you'd go right back into the music, and then it'd be 2 minutes and then right back into the music. So I personally don't recommend the audiobook, even though I loved the narrator. I'm so sad about it, but the story itself was great, and I gave it 4 stars. Next, we have Samantha's Surprise. This is an American Girl story. I decided to reread for Jingle Bellathon. I think I'm going to do this every year because I am obsessed with the American Girl books. I loved them when I was a kid, and I remember rereading them as an adult in my 20s to my little sister when she was a kid. They just hold up so well. They're just so cute. They have great little morals and adventures, and this is Samantha's. This is the 3rd one in her series. It's set in the early 1900s, I think, and it's just a cute little story about friendship and family and Christmas time. It's like a 60-page book, and it was fabulous, so of course I gave it 4 stars. Next, we have The Chaos of Standing Still by Jessica Brody. Again, I read this for Jingle Bellathon. This one is set on New Year's Eve at an airport, and we're following these 2 teens that are stuck in this airport because of this snowstorm. They accidentally swap phones, and little bits of chaos kind of ensue. Our main character, however, has recently, I think within the last year, lost her best friend to a car crash, and she has a text message from her best friend on her phone that she has never read, and so she is worried that this other person is going to mark that as read and kind of ruin this memory for her that she is not ready to face. So this one has a lot to do with grief and her dealing with grief and the outcome of her friend and the fact that she wasn't in the car and why the accident happened and different things like that. Not my favorite thing. I don't always love contemporary books. I don't always like these super realistic, hard-hitting topics. However, it was done in a way that I really enjoyed. Like, the writing was so good. I really liked the cute little romance. There were some friendships that she made in the airport as well. I was kind of surprised with the little bit of graphicness in describing the friend's accident. It was a little more graphic than I was anticipating. So I just want to warn people of that going in. Very heavy on grief and death and stuff like that. But I thought it was done really well. I liked the ending. It wasn't quite as festive, like New Year's Eve-ish as I wanted. I thought it was a really good like YA contemporary. So 4 stars. All right, next we have Once Upon a December. This is another like Christmassy rom-com that I wanted to get to for the holiday season. I read this one for Jingle Bellathon, and I really liked it. So this one has some magical elements to it that I didn't know going in that I was very excited about. Basically, our main character discovers this Christmas market. She meets this handsome man who has all these fun like trinkety things, and then the next day the market is gone. And the market is a traveling market that reappears to different cities every so often, and she's constantly thinking about this man, and she doesn't know that he's thinking about her. And then one day they get to meet up again with a lot of life lived in between. It was so charming and magical, and it had a lot to do with friendship. In between this, she has gone through a marriage and a divorce and just resetting her life. It was just such a good rom-com with that magical element. It was very sweet. This one has just a tiny bit of spice in it, which I really enjoyed because there was just a full magical plot in between all of that, and I just had a really great time with it. So it was like a 4-star. Next, I read Saga, a graphic novel. I am restarting this series. I read it from 2018 through 2019, and they left us on a brutal cliffhanger. But then because 2020 happened and they were taking a break, we didn't get the next installment for like 3 or 4 years, and by then I had forgotten so much I didn't want to jump right into it. I'm finally going to reread it and hopefully get some answers from that next one because I'm really worried about it. This is an adult graphic novel series. It is very graphic and very weird. It is about two species from different planets that have fallen in love and had a baby, which is not allowed, and so their different planets are tracking them down, trying to get them and the baby, and they're trying to survive, and they're going on all these wild adventures on different planets and meeting like different creatures and things. We're following a lot of side characters as well, but the plot in here is really good. There is a lot of sexual imagery and graphics and gore and stuff like that, so just be prepared going into it. It's not something that I would normally love, but the story is just so good. I'm thinking they'll probably make a movie of this someday if they can figure out how to do it well, but I really loved it. So I gave it 4 stars upon rereading, which I think it was just a 3-star before, but love it even more now. Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I finally read the first book, you guys. I finally made it through. I have started and accidentally DNF'd this book 3 different times. Not on purpose, it's just that it's like a 25-hour audio and a over 600-page book, and it just was taking forever. But I finally did it. I'm so glad I did. Now I can watch the first season of the TV show. This is about a witch woman who is a professor. She is not fond of using magic and tries not to use magic. She accidentally stumbles upon this old alchemic textbook, and then before she knows it, all these hordes of creatures are coming after her trying to find it. And she runs into this vampire that decides that he wants to help her and protect her, and she's not sure if she can trust him. It's so good. It's so good. It is very slow and very long in the middle portion, but if you can just go into it knowing that you're just going to enjoy the story and have like some cozy times in between all the action and the romance, which is a very nice slow burn. I really, really love our main characters, Diana and Matthew. Obsessed. Obsessed. So glad I finally read it. I will be reading the rest of the books hopefully this year to finish the series. It's really good. There's lots of different creatures in here, but there's a lot of so many like cozy fun elements. Like at one point Matthew takes her to do yoga with a bunch of different creatures. It's just really great. Love. So 4.5. Solid 4-star. Queen of Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. Again, another giant buddy read I started last year. I'm very behind on it. The 4th or 5th book, depending on how you're reading it and what reading order in the Throne of Glass series. So I can't say too much because I don't want to spoil it. I will say I struggled with this one the most, and I don't know if it was because I tried to read it kind of during the holiday season when I'm not really in the mood for like big fantasy, or if it's just because it was longer. I did like the ending a lot, but I will say go into this series super slowly because there are so many characters and so much happening, and the characters have multiple names and a lot of them are similar to each other. That is something I'm really not liking. Like a lot of the characters have 2 or 3 names and they're very similar to the old names, and it's very, very easy to get confused. I'm watching a lot of recaps before I go into all the next books so that I don't miss out. I am enjoying the series. This is just barely a 4-star though. I'm hoping that I totally love it by the end. I could see this one growing on me as I like continue to get to know everything. I'm not obsessed with it like I was really wanting to be, which is kind of how I always feel about Sarah. So we'll see. I'm having a good time, but I'm not like over the moon like I was wanting. So fingers crossed it'll just keep going up from here. Lastly, in the 4-star section is the Shades of Rust and Ruin duology. Reread Shades of Rust and Ruin, and then I read Seasons of Flesh and Flame, which is the sequel. I really love this duology, you guys. I didn't love the second book as much as the first one, but I just thought it was such a solid duology. This one is very fun to start in the fall and then go into the holidays, because the first book has a lot to do with fall and Halloween, and then the second book has some tie-ins with winter and Christmas and Krampus and different things. So it's a really fun like little transitional duology. Our first book follows Nyx, and she believes her family's under a Halloween curse. Her parents died on Halloween, and then I think that last year her sister also went missing or died on Halloween, and Halloween is coming up and she is worried about it. Part of dealing with her grief, she does these graphics and these drawings of these magnificent creatures that come into her brain, goblins and ghouls and all kinds of fun things. Her uncle, who is her caretaker, runs this adorable cafe with all these somewhat magical seeming food. Everything is very whimsical. And then one day Nyx stumbles into this world where it seems like her characters have been brought to life, and she's there with her sister's ex-boyfriend, who's a good friend with her as well. It's so good. This is one of the most perfect books to read for Halloween because it has so much Halloween goodness. It's a very loose retelling of the Goblin King, lots of magic, lots of beautiful descriptions of like spooky food and elements elements. I love the elements with her like art and her drawing. I wish we could see more of it because it's really cool. That has a major cliffhanger on book 1, and I really enjoyed book 2, especially with all the holiday elements, but in like kind of like a spooky way. Such a good one. So these were solid 4.5 stars for me. All right, next are the 5 stars. I only have 3 to share with you because I just did not have a lot of things that like reached the 5-star level. The first one is Fangirl Volume 4. This is the manga version of the Fangirl novel. I have been keeping up with these mangas as they come out. They did 4 for Fangirl, which is one novel, and it has been so fun seeing the characters come to life. Fangirl, I think, has officially made it into like top favorite books of all time. I just love the characters so much, and it's just so unique for me to feel this way about a contemporary book. It's kind of a new adult contemporary novel. Definitely leans more YA in the feelings of it, but our main characters are in college. We're following Kath, and she is going to college for the first time, separated from her twin sister. They're going to different schools. She's not really been like on her own like this. They are estranged from their mother, who left them when they were younger, and are cared for by their sweet father. And so she's kind of learning who she is and how to be like a real adult and make friends. She has this fan fiction that she writes that is very famous, based on this world called Simon Snow, which is very reminiscent of Harry Potter, and her web comic version of this is very popular. Like, she has millions of followers and people don't know who she is. She kind of hides behind this as she's trying to get into her writing and everything, is very invested in her characters, but they're not really her own. And then she has this little love interest that comes in that is one of my favorite like cinnamon roll boyfriends of all time. It is so good, and this is one that deals with some harder hitting topics like her mother leaving her and her having a lot of trauma from that, and kind of learning to deal with her feelings, issues with her sister and things, but it's done in such a beautiful way. Rainbow Rowell's writing is so good. I love her writing. Her contemporary books almost always work for me. And then you're getting snippets of Kath's fan fiction as well throughout the book, little stories of Simon Snow and the fan fiction she's writing for it. And that's really charming because it's kind of got a Harry and Draco reimagining story to it. There's a full novel collection based on her fan fiction as well, called the Simon Snow series. That's really good, but definitely read Fangirl first. But this is the manga version of it, and I was just really fun seeing the characters like fully brought to life, and our artist did such an amazing job. So I love the manga, I love the novel, I love Simon Snow, so solid 5 stars. All right, then 2 more holiday novels. So Spectacular from Stephanie Garber. This is the novella that goes with the Caraval trilogy. I've seen so many people wanting to read this without reading Caraval. Do not. It will ruin it for you. This is supposed to be like a love letter to the fans of Caraval, so you need to have read the full trilogy to enjoy this. This takes place after and somewhat continues the story. They did such a good job with this. This is the Barnes & Noble edition, but it has full illustrations. Like, all of the books have illustrations in them, which just made it so charming. I can't say too much what this is about without spoiling the other books, but we're following some of our beloved characters. There's like a holiday festival, lots of Christmassy holiday winter goodness. It is so good. We need more true fantasy holiday reads, and I'm really excited because one of my favorite series is coming out with something like this later on this year. I did the audio for this one while I physically read it because I didn't want to miss out on all the beautiful art, but Rebecca Solar narrates all of these books and I love her. So glad I did that because there's little sound effects, like little twinkly music and beautiful things, and it's done so well. It was just such a charming, lovely experience. So 5 stars, done perfectly, adored it. Highly recommend it after you read Caraval. All right, lastly, The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ally Carter. This book took me by surprise. Again, I read this one for Jingle Bellathon. This is an adult contemporary mystery thriller romance, and it was the perfect blend of all of them for me. This one's following 2 authors. One is like big time thriller guy, and one is well known for like her mystery books. They get invited mysteriously for this Christmas event at someone's house, and their agents encourage them to go. When they get there, they're there with a bunch of other authors, and they're not really sure why they're there to spend Christmas. I don't really want to say why, even though I think it's in the synopsis, because I was surprised when it happened, even though I shouldn't have been. But then when they're there, something something nefarious happens and they have to kind of solve the mystery as to what is going on. So they basically get to kind of be in their own type mystery thriller type novels, but there's these two characters that are kind of against each other and they kind of slowly fall in love, and there's the perfect blend, in my opinion, of romance and like fast-paced mystery holiday fun. Like, it was such a fun read. This one is in no spice romance, just know that going in. All of the characters are so charming. I think everything was just very silly and fun, but really done very well, and I absolutely loved the ending. So for me, it was just such a good time. It was a solid 5 stars. Okay, I probably won't do one this long again, but let me know whether you prefer monthly or maybe bi-monthly videos recapping things that I have read that are not part of readathons. I'd really appreciate any input that you have. Let me know if you've read any of these books down below in the comments. Let me know if any of them sound good to you. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Bright Side Girl if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time on The Bright Side.